Hi everyone and welcome to our YouTube Live. In today's podcast we're going to be looking at how to reverse type 2 diabetes in 16 weeks. So if you have diabetes, you are for sure going to be interested in this. My name is Andy Shepherd. I'm the clinical lead here at ReadyCare, our chief nerd. So I'm going to be talking through the science, what's possible in terms of your, what you can do in terms of actually treating and reversing diabetes. Really important to know, type 2 diabetes is categorically not a chronic progressive condition that will just get worse over time. That's not the case. Type 2 diabetes is imminently treatable, particularly if you've been diagnosed in the last 7-8 years in particular. If it's beyond that, you can still put it into remission and keep it in remission by following a particular diet most of the time. But in terms of actually reversing it and coming off all your medication and staying off it for good, you can do that if you're diagnosed relatively recently, so within the last 7 or 8 years. So again, Andy is my name. I'm the clinical lead, and I'm going to be covering the science behind reversing type 2 diabetes, what foods to eat, what foods to avoid, and what's possible on our program as well. So I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. Before we do, just a little bit of background on stuff. So I just want to talk about the basics in type 2, because sometimes I'll use terms like HbA1c and people are thinking, what in the name of God is that? Nobody has ever really bothered to explain it to me. HbA1c is one thing that not every diabetic knows what it is, but it's important that you do. So let's just have a look at what that is. HbA1c is basically, it's like a long-term view of your blood sugar levels. So if you check your blood sugar levels and they are always 5 or 6, for example, your HbA1c will be about 40. If your blood sugar levels are always 10 to 12, your HbA1c will be 60 or 70 and so on. Now, above 48 is considered type 2 diabetic. That used to be called 6%. Above 48 is type 2. Less than 48 is non-type 2 or in remission. So all HbA1c is, it's a different way of expressing your blood sugar levels over a 4-month period. Now, it's different from blood glucose. So blood glucose or blood sugars is how much glucose or sugar, and they're the same thing, is in my blood right now. So for example, if you check your blood sugar levels now, it can be a bit hit and miss, because you might check them now and they're 5.8 and you take a drink of Lucozade and they go up to 11.2. So it's how much sugar is in my blood right now, but it doesn't really give you a good indication of your total control over time. HbA1c is a much more accurate one. So if you've ever wondered the difference between the two, that's the difference. HbA1c is a binding protein that you check for. It's like a proxy or a good, gives you a good indication of blood sugar control, whereas blood sugar is sugar in your blood, as the name suggests. And in terms of where you want to be with your blood sugars, you should be somewhere between kind of 4 and 7 most of the time. Now, not a lot of diabetics are between 4 and 7 most of the time, but if you change your diet, if you know what foods spike your blood sugar levels and which ones lower your blood sugar levels, it's remarkably easy to do. I'll share with you a screenshot somebody sent me of their blood sugar levels at the end of this presentation, which is just mind-blowing what they accomplished. Sorry, it's mind-blowing to the patient. We expect to see it actually, but her blood sugar levels went as a quick kind of preview of what happened. Her blood sugar levels went from kind of 25 to 30, which is off the charts high, to 5 in 10 days, which is incredible. Incredible. You're essentially saving that person's life when you get that sort of blood sugar control. Okay, this is something I like to start off a lot of my talks with. So a lot of the time people will say to me, oh, I have diabetes, but I'm on medication for it. And the but part is, it's almost as if to say, it's under control, but it's not. You see, the people who end up with amputations, the people who end up with heart disease, with cancers, with kidney problems, with feet problems, going blind, all those complications of diabetes are all on medication. There's almost none of them that aren't on medication. In fact, the more medication you're on, the higher your chances of all those complications, because you'd only be on that amount of medication if your blood sugar control wasn't great in the first place. So there's 26 million, I think the number is more like 32 million in the US now who are diabetic. All of them are on medication. Nobody has cured it. Not one out of the 30 million has put it into remission with medication. So type 2 diabetes is, as the great Dr. Robert Lustig says, type 2 diabetes is a condition that's really unique because it's not very druggable. You can't really improve it with medication, but it's very foodable. You can fully reverse it with food in as little as 16 weeks, which is great news. And that's why I absolutely love my job. I love getting up in the morning and passionate about research and the work I do. Just borderline obsessed with it. I really love it because I get to reverse a chronic disease that people thought they were going to die from. So it really is a gift. So this is really important as well. Drug therapy doesn't address the root cause of type 2 diabetes. So the root cause, and I'll jump back on camera actually while I say this because it's really important, but the root cause of type 2 diabetes is, it's not that you eat loads of processed food and you end up with diabetes, lots of carbs and sugar, and that it's somehow your fault. For every person that ends up with type 2 diabetes, there are hundreds who eat a similar or worse diet and will never become type 2 diabetic because it doesn't interact with their genes in the way it does with somebody who's naturally has a predisposition for diabetes. So I would say 90% of the time when I talk to someone, either of their parents or an uncle or a brother or a sister or multiple of those relatives end up being diabetic. So there's very much a genetic proclivity or predisposition for type 2 diabetes. So to use a good analogy, type 2 diabetes happens when your genetic predisposition and your environment, being food, kind of cross over. Type 2 diabetes is here in the middle. It doesn't just happen because you eat sugar and carbohydrate. I've eaten my fair share of sugar and carbohydrate, especially growing up. My diet was awful and I never ended up type 2, thank God, because it's not in my family history. But interestingly, your family likelihood or proclivity for having type 2 doesn't stop you from reversing type 2. So even if everyone in your family has it, it doesn't mean that it's going to stop you, reversing your diabetes at all. Again, once you're diagnosed within the last few years, it's remarkably straightforward actually to put into remission. Okay, this is just a quick snapshot of the results we saw as far back as 2017, actually, when people were kind of the opinion that you can't really reverse type 2 diabetes, and we know better now. We published a paper where we showed a 48% reversal rate in type 2 diabetes in the first 8 weeks alone. Now, beyond that, it gets much more effective again. But it just goes to show, you'll see all the other things that happen. Your HbA1c goes way down. That minus 1% is about, I think it's about 17 or 20 millimoles in the current way of looking at it. So if your HbA1c is 60, you'd go down to 40. If it's 70, you'd go down to 50 and so on. So the average weight loss was kind of 6, 7, 8 kgs around that, which is about a stone to a stone and a half. And that's only in the first 8 weeks. We regularly see people lose 2, 3, 4 stone in the 16 weeks, which is what our program is. Goes on for 4 months. Blood pressure, triglycerides, everything gets better. The reason they all improve is because these are all high cholesterol, high blood pressure, weight around the midsection, and type 2 diabetes are all expressions or manifestations of the same thing, which is high blood sugar levels. So when you get your blood sugar levels under control, all of these things get better. They get much, much better. So I'll glance over this very quickly. But again, before the last couple of years, especially up till 2019, there was always a question. People would say, oh, I don't know, maybe low carb diets don't work, or maybe they do, maybe they're a fad, and maybe they'll help diabetes a bit. This is the American Diabetes Association's guideline statement saying reducing your overall carb intake if you have diabetes. Basically, they're saying, well, reverse your diabetes. The fancy way they're saying it is, has demonstrated the most evidence for improving glycemia. Glycemia is blood sugar control. So there's no question. Your Skinny World, your weight minders programs of the world won't necessarily improve your blood sugar levels and could make them worse. But a lower carb diet like the ones we use here at Readycare will definitely improve your glycemic control, your blood sugar control, dramatically. And I'll show you testimonials from our patients. It really is dramatic. Okay, this slide I want to show you, just ignore the mess at the top. It didn't come across well on my streaming software, but it just says lowering blood sugar. Lowering your blood sugar response to macronutrients is key. And what this means is, if you look at what type 2 diabetes is, type 2 diabetes is basically carbohydrate allergy. It's carbohydrate intolerance. Now, telling someone to eat porridge, cereal, granola bars, rice, pasta, scones, and then take their metformin or their insulin when their blood sugars go high is kind of like telling someone with a peanut allergy to eat peanuts and then take an EpiPen when they have a bad reaction. It's really not a good way of doing it, or at least there's a far better way of doing it. So if we know what foods spike your blood sugar levels, then we also know which ones don't. So if you look at refined carbs, the graph in the red here, when you eat things like bread, and I'll go through the foods in a second, when you eat things like bread, rice, pasta, cereals, granola bars, bananas, porridge and bananas are the ones that shock people the most, grapes, all those sort of foods, they send your blood sugars up very high, especially processed carbohydrate, and then they go back down again, and you require medication when your blood sugars go high. But if you dial down those foods a lot or knock them out altogether and eat things like meat, eggs, fish, dark chocolate, Greek yogurt with berries, nuts, there's loads of different foods like that you can have, eggs. They don't spike your blood sugar levels at all, or not remotely as much as refined carbs do. So when you don't spike your blood sugar levels, your pancreas gets a break. And if you can keep that going for 3 or 4 months, you can put your diabetes in remission, which is incredible news for people who've been diagnosed, particularly in the last 8, 9, 10 years, because you really can fully reverse your diabetes. Now, this is the wrong way to do it. This is how not to start your day. So we're told that cereals are low calorie and they're the great way to start your day. I can promise you, whether you're diabetic or not, cornflakes, porridge, cereal, Cheerios, all bran Weetabix, shredded wheat, it doesn't matter. Carbohydrate based cereals that convert to sugar in the blood at a rate of kind of 15 to 20 spoons of sugar in your blood, in no conceivable way can be classed as something that's a good way to start your day. That's just clever marketing by the food industry. So in my 90 gram serving of cornflakes that I used to eat before following a low carb or ketogenic diet for the last 7 or 8 years, there was the equivalent to, now I'm not saying actual spoons of table sugar, the equivalent to 21 spoons of sugar in that 90 gram serving, which is to say that when that carbohydrate is metabolized as glucose in the blood, it spikes your blood sugars to the same degree as eating 21 spoons of sugar. And this is a key thing to know. Whether you decide to do our program or go and attack it on your own, that's entirely up to you. But please take this on board. If you were eating a high carbohydrate diet, if you're eating carbohydrates, all dietary carbohydrate is broken down to sugar in the blood. Bread, rice, pasta, granola bars, cornflakes, porridge, all of that stuff just boils down to sugar in the blood. And if you're diabetic, and I presume you are if you're watching this podcast or this stream or seminar, then you need to know that you are, by every conceivable definition and understanding and interpretation of type 2 diabetes, you are allergic to carbohydrates. Your body can't manage them. So what it does is your pancreas can't make enough insulin, your blood sugar levels go high, so you take medication to bring your blood sugar levels back down again. Which kind of begs the question, why don't we just reduce the foods or knock out the foods that spike your blood sugar levels? And lo and behold, when you do, your diabetes goes into remission. Okay, I'll cover this for a second actually, and again, apologies about the text spilling over into the second line. Fruits and vegetables, these are interesting because we have it in our heads that, fruits and veg are great for us. And it's not that straightforward actually. If you look at the glycemic response or postprandial sugar levels, by that I mean after you eat, what your blood sugar levels look like. Strawberries, raspberries, blackberries are all very low. They barely budge your blood sugar levels at all, which surprised me initially because strawberries are quite sweet. Blueberries, funnily enough, even though they don't quite taste as sweet as strawberries and they can be a little bit sour, they're about triple as high in sugar. So you'd want to be careful with those. Any other fruits, I would say avoid. Even at blueberries, I'd have smaller amounts of them. So apples, oranges, pears, tropical fruits especially, like bananas, mango, pineapple, grapes, they're super high in the glycemic index. Now, vegetables that are great for you, cauliflower, broccoli, greens, and any vegetable that doesn't grow below the ground. If the vegetable grows below the ground, you're probably better off avoiding it. So potatoes and sweet potatoes are out for your blood sugar control. So this is this is interesting, just a slide I put together for a seminar in the NHS. Cocoa Pops, cornflakes, all of those. I mean, we would never eat those and think, well, these are good for you, because we kind of know they're sugary, they taste sugary enough. But instant oats, or any type of oats for that matter, roughly the same as Cocoa Pops and just a little bit better than cornflakes. So there's about 14 spoons of sugar equivalent in your average portion of porridge, which is fairly hard to get your head around because we're told that porridge is healthy and slow releasing and higher in fibre. And again, a lot of that is clever marketing and advertising. It is not good for you if you have type 2 diabetes. Again, you have carbohydrate allergy, carbohydrate intolerance is the best way to kind of think of it. Shredded wheat, Weetabix, a little bit better, about 10 spoons of sugar. Scrambled eggs or ham and cheese omelette or Greek yogurt with berries or any of those sort of things, 0 spoons of sugar. So you can see now how if you swap out the aforementioned foods, the cornflakes and instant oats, for things like scrambled eggs, ham and cheese omelette, chia seed puddings, all those sorts of things, the homemade granola recipe that we get our patients to make up, all of a sudden their blood sugar control is excellent. And I see this time and time again with patients. I have a lot of clinical experience in putting diabetes in remission. And I spoke to a patient earlier on and she was saying to me, how is it that my blood sugar levels were up over 20 And within 2 days of starting with you, my blood sugar levels are 4 and 5, and I'm coming off medication. Like it's almost wrong that this is not a first line treatment for type 2 diabetes. It should be. It's there in the protocol that, we should be advising patients on lifestyle, but, this sort of a service hasn't really existed until now, particularly in Ireland and Europe. So these are kind of foods that are also very high in spoons of sugar equivalent in your blood. Rice, fries, potatoes, we all kind of know they're high carb, so they're going to convert the sugar in the blood. Banana, about 6 spoons of sugar in your blood. But again, if you have fish, chicken, almonds, mushrooms, cheese, meat, full fat dairy that's low in sugar, what else? Dark chocolate, strawberries and cream, all of those foods, cheese, I think I said cheese, I did. All of those foods will leave you with almost no sugar in your blood. So if you can stick to those foods, you can put your diabetes in remission. So as a kind of a higher level summary, bread, rice, pasta, breakfast cereals, fizzy drinks, cakes, pastries, starchy veg, all that sort of stuff, not good. We want to avoid that as much as possible. The high sugar fruits, again, are bananas, grapes, tropical fruits. The better ones there with sugar and fruits would be raspberries, strawberries and blackberries. And with vegetables would be above ground vegetables. So we want to swap out those foods in the previous slide for things like meats, fish, seafood, cheese, full fat cheese, never low fat. The idea that low fat would help us lose weight as a nation has backfired horrendously over the last 40 years, and all we need to do to check that out is not been funny, but look around. We're seeing it even in school children. There's an all-time record high of obesity in Western societies that adopted low-fat guidelines. It patently and demonstrably didn't work. So green vegetables, eggs, things like avocado, chia seeds, coconut oil, real butter and dairy. These are the foods that will help optimize your health. Interestingly, optimize your cholesterol as well, which goes against what people would have said for the last 30 or 40 years with that hypothesis that eating eggs will give you high cholesterol or eating real butter. It doesn't, I can promise you that. So they're the foods that you want to eat more of. So if we take a look at how we can kind of apply this and roughly what a day might look like. For me, these are my kind of breakfasts. I'll make a homemade granola, which is in our recipes that we give to patients. That acts as our kind of breakfast cereal replacement. Eggs, avocado, smoked salmon, coffee with cream. You'd be amazed how full that will make you feel actually when you get used to it. Full fat dairy like Greek yogurt with berries. Lunch then for me is usually meat and vegetables, creamy soups. Today we had seafood chowder, lettuce wrap burgers, salads, all that sort of stuff. And then dinners, nice and simple, meat and veg. Cauli curry just means a curry that you make but you use cauliflower rice with it. So that's something that you start seeing a lot now that I have mentioned it to you if you haven't heard of it before. So cauliflower rice is like it's a real low carb or keto staple because it's made when you kind of use a grater and you grate down cauliflower, not boiled, just raw cauliflower, grate it down and kind of stir it up in the pan with some garlic, a little bit of butter, salt and pepper. And it's a similar consistency to rice. Personally, I'm not mad about it, but it's definitely much, much better than rice, which will dramatically spike your blood sugar levels. Omelets, stir fries with mostly veg as opposed to rice and noodles. For snacks then, cheese, berries and cream, dark chocolate once it's over 80% because it's significantly lower in sugar and carbohydrate. And then nuts with the exception of peanuts and cashews because those guys, you couldn't make it up. The nicer tasting ones would be much higher in carbohydrate. These are just some testimonials from us recently. So this Charlie is one of our patients on our UK trial. He went from his HbA1c, again, if it's over 48, you're diabetic, went from 86 to 43. So he reversed his diabetes, came off loads of his medications, reversed the fatty liver and lost 2.5 stone. Claire, who's one of my favourite patients, just recently lost 3 stone and 10 pounds and reversed her diabetes in 12 weeks, actually. She's just finishing the program. She's not even at the 16th week. I'll skip through that for a second. And just a little bit about the program. So the company was set up to treat chronic diseases like pre and type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, overweight and obesity and cholesterol. And with all our research over the last few years, we came into it at a really good time, actually, because the literature became very clear that actually not only can you treat and improve these conditions, but you can reverse type 2 diabetes. So, and high blood pressure and weight and high cholesterol for that matter. So we've gone on to win International Scholar Awards. We recently won a National Clinical Pharmacy Congress Award in the UK as well. these are the sort of results we see. So 48% remission rate in type 2. And to be honest, if somebody complies with the dietary protocol at all, it's incredibly effective. We published in numerous, published our abstracts, our studies in numerous international papers like the American Heart Association, the European Society of Cardiology, and so on. So we're very focused on data. It's a very evidence-based scientific program. So what we do on the program is we set patients up on a program which gives them access to meal plans, shopping lists, food guides, all of my seminars and talks around how to reverse diabetes and what foods to eat. And then what we do is we also send out a blood sugar monitor, which looks like this one here. It's called the One Touch Vario. And the reason we send it out is because we can give you a clinician's code, and the clinician's code allows us to then have permission to, with your permission, to track your blood sugar levels. So we can track your blood sugar levels every day, make sure they're in range, and then we review them every week with you. We tell you, we chat about what you're eating, what your weight is, how your blood pressure is doing, how your blood sugar levels are, and advise you on what to do for the week ahead. And coach you, and are there as kind of to support, mentor, and help you through the journey. It is nowhere near as difficult as you would imagine. In fact, all of my patients say the same thing to me. They say, I can't believe I didn't have to count calories and do loads of exercise, and I could eat as much food as I wanted to and still put my diabetes in remission. Like, it's a real win-win. I remember a guy a few months ago saying to me, if you can get me to reverse my diabetes, eating cheese, drinking a glass of champagne every night, and having my steak and my veg and butter and stuff, I'll be your best friend. I'll come in your podcast in the next couple of months. And he's due on my podcast, actually, because he's reversed his diabetes. So that's what we do night and day. That's what we obsess over and what we do as a company. These are, you mightn't be able to see this, or maybe you will. So these are just some of the testimonials from our patient recently. I'll read them out just in case. So Dawn has said, I lost 2 stone and reversed my diabetes in 10 weeks and learned loads along the way. Yas, who's one of our guys in Amsterdam, my doctor couldn't believe my transformation. I reversed my type 2 and I'm off all my medication. Nikki reversed her type 2 as well. Brian in Havant, which is in London, as well, reversed his type 2 diabetes. There's loads more. We just tried to include some of the international and UK ones, but loads of Irish ones as well. You can see some of those on our website, which is controldtx.com. In terms of the price of the program, then the type 2 reversal program is $499 or 3 payments of €185. And like I always say to people, it is the best money you will ever spend, because sometimes people go, I'll have to have a think about it, the €500, and sometimes I just feel like saying, please do it, because ask any of my patients, there's none of them that would say, I reversed my diabetes, lost 2 stone, I'm off all my medications, and I don't have to worry about losing my sight or having my feet amputated or getting a stroke, but it was expensive. Ever. I see it as being actually a fraction of what it should be. It's incredible value for being able to turn your health around like that. Now, we do have, how many spaces do we have? 2 spaces left for March. If anyone wants me to hold a place for them, I'm just aware that this YouTube live will go out to a couple of thousand people in our database after the recording is done. We're live at the moment, but after the recording is done. So there is a good chance that the spaces will be gone by tomorrow, because the recording goes out kind of midday tomorrow. So if anyone is listening to this live, if you want to hold a place, you'd be working with me and with my colleague Chloe, and I'll be able to advise you on exactly what to eat, track your blood sugar levels, and make sure you put your diabetes in remission or fully reverse it. So if you do want to hold a place, this is my mobile number here down the bottom. That's my name, Andy. So my mobile number is 086 and then 086 again, 1300. So again, 086 086 1300. Listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to what I have to say on a Thursday evening. I hope some of the advice has been useful in terms of kind of envisioning or starting to see type 2 diabetes as what it is, which is carbohydrate intolerance, processed food intolerance, and that it's kind of helped shape your approach towards it, and that your diabetes gets a lot better. If you want me to coach you, if you want to be on our join our members community and get on the type 2 program and have us monitor your blood sugar levels and put your diabetes in remission with you and be part of that journey, again, give me a buzz on my mobile, 086 086 1300. I'm going to jump, guys, because I have another seminar to do in 3 minutes time. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.